Glad you could join us now. Almost 2 years after the inauguration of some 1,500 housing units under the Saglemi housing project, there is no sign of life in what was described as a massive leap towards addressing Ghana's worsening housing deficit. The units are simply unoccupied, uncompleted, with weeds taking over parts of the structure. Deputy Works and Housing Minister Frida Prempeh recently blamed the situation on government's inability to lay hands on key documents relating to the project. Joining us, Joseph Akable has been to the site and joins us on phone. Joseph, first, give us a background to this project.
So, Daniel, this particular housing unit is actually the first phase of the construction of, it has to do with some 1,500 units that forms part of the 5,000 housing units project. At the time that the John Mahama administration commissioned this particular project, they touted it as a very important project because of how it will improve Ghana's housing deficit. So that is the bit of the background to this particular project that is being executed here, Daniel.
Now, we know there was some controversy recently. Tell us about that.
Two things issues were raised by the Deputy Housing Minister, Frida Prempeh. The first was the fact that the number of housing units that were to be constructed, that is 1,500 of that. She said the number had been reduced to somewhere around 1,400, and later she even hinted that of that number coming down to 1,200. Yet she says the project cost remained the same of $200 million. She again makes the point that there are some documents that government wants to lay hands on that they've not been able to lay their hands on, and that has also stalled work on the project. But those two issues have been refuted by a former Deputy Minister of Works and Housing, Samson Ahe, who said the minister that it's not up to date in terms of the information on that particular project, and that if she makes reference to the handing over note, she'll have access to those documents.
Now, what's the current state of the project?
So, Daniel, the project actually sits on a 300-acre plot of land. It's in the Ningo Pram district. So far, we visited, we couldn't get too close to the building, but from sources within the structure that we engaged, we understand that since the change in government, work has stalled. No progress of work since the MPP government took over. And the second thing we got from them is the fact that out of the 1,500 units that were opened some time back, none of the units is currently occupied by anyone. So they are simply buildings that some of them have been completed, others at various stages of completion, yet uninhabited and simply are left to be wasting away. From afar, we could also see that there are lots of weeds that have grown even within the structure and parts of it. So movement within the perimeter is in itself difficult because of the weeds that have taken over the structure. So those are the two main issues we're able to confirm here on site.
Thank you very much, joining us. It's Joseph Akable with that report. Now, let's stay with housing, because work on the affordable housing project at Asokore Mampong in Ashanti region is set to complete in December. Officials put execution rate at 95% completion. Now, Nana Sensimenta has been visiting the project site to interact with the consultants. Nana, what is the level of completion?
Daniel, thank you. The affordable housing project is still underway here at the Asokore Mampong municipality in the Ashanti region. The project is expected to house about 3,000 prospective residents with over 1,198 flats. But according to the consultant for this project, he told me that the project is actually at its final stage of completion with 95% completion. So according to management, the project is at its final stage, and the project is expected to be completed and handed over to government by the end of this year, Daniel.
So it's by the end of this year that government is going to receive the project?
Yeah, that is what he tells me, Daniel.
We understand there's...
also, as we are celebrating the World Habitat Day, you understand the theme for the whole program is on waste management, solid waste management. And so I asked the consultant on site how they are managing the waste, or how they're going to manage the waste of over 3,000 residents who will be contained here at the affordable housing. And then he told me that they've earmarked a site where they are going to recycle all waste, solid waste of the residents. So most of the residents will not be buying LPG gas. They will just pick their gas cylinders and then come to the site and then tap their cylinders to the biogas.
Okay. Right. Thank you very much, Nana Sensimensa, for joining us. Now, imagine a device that can take the waste from your kitchen, turn it into liquefied petroleum gas for cooking with a byproduct for fertilizer. That is the product that has been developed by a group of young engineers from the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. The innovation is receiving support from the Ghana Climate Innovation Center. In our Climate Focus series this week, my colleague Justice Beidou went to meet them.
Inside the Impact Hub here in Accra, Desmond Conning is taking me through how a biodigester he and his team at Cybos Tech have developed could convert your kitchen waste into gas for household
As you
cooking.
can see, there's leftover rice and stuff from it here.
The innovation, yet to be produced on mass scale, is receiving support from the Ghana Climate Innovation Center.
GCIC has been kind of accelerated our growth and made us really define our vision in the sense that it's made us see that green business is actually real business, like they say. And fortunately for us, in Cohort 2, with the help that we are getting from them, we believe we can go a long way with what we are doing.
The barriers to becoming a successful entrepreneur are higher in the developing world. And it's even more high if you are in the green economy. Why? Because it's a new field. The technologies there are not always fully matured, right? And the funding cycle is not as quick as you find in other places. So most business people would want to put their money in a business and then quickly get a return, right? In the climate space, the returns will not come as quickly. And that is the basis for setting up the Ghana Climate Innovation Center.
This biodigester, when complete, will be able to take up to 1 cubic meters of waste with a byproduct that can be used as fertilizer for farms.
This product is actually solving two problems with one solution. We believe once people start finding value in the waste that they produce, it will help them separate their waste from source. And so part of the add-ons to the product is to provide a trash can specifically for organic waste. That helps you separate your organic waste without causing stench.
With this climate-smart innovation that Cybos Tech is pioneering here, the future of waste management and energy for fuels in Ghana may not be the same. Justice Beidou, Joy News, Accra.
Now, residents of Adaklu Hasu are appealing to governments to absorb the Adaklu Senior High Technical School established by the community to save it from being closed down. According to the residents, government's refusal to absorb the school would lead to a closure and affect technical education in the area. They therefore appeal for government's immediate intervention.
The Adaklu Senior High Technical School was established in 2008 in Adaklu Hasu by the residents, with the community solely financing and managing the school. The school offers general arts, agriculture, business, and technical courses. The current student population is over 150. According to residents, the establishment of the school with support from the district assembly brought great relief to parents in about 13 communities in the catchment area. The district assembly also sponsored construction of an additional classroom unit, which is yet to be completed to augment the existing structures. Nonetheless, headmaster of the school, Justice Dugbe, said the school is almost collapsing because contributions from the residents are woefully inadequate to meet daily operation of the school. He explains moves to get the school absorbed into the public sector to save it from collapse have proved futile.
One Mr. Nku, the former director for secondary education, gave me a letter in respect to this absorption issue that they have commended both reports from the region and the national inspectorate, and they commended the work done. But because of embargo on employment, the school cannot be absorbed for now, where they will post teaching and non-teaching staff to the school. and Director General will give us the approval as soon as the menace has been resolved. The embargo is lifted. As we are now, are they not recruiting teachers? Then what prevents government from absorbing the school?
A youth leader in Adaklu Hasu, Manfred Clark Jakuma, believes the establishment of Adaklu Community Day Senior High School could also be blamed for government's lackadaisical attitude towards absorbing Adastec into the public sector.
I must put on record that the establishment of the Community Day Senior High School at Abwadi was against the advice and recommendation of most opinion leaders in the traditional area. That it should be cited at where the Adaklu Senior High Technical School is located, or at Adaklu Ahunda, which are strategic locations. Due to these developments, the progress of Adaklu Senior High Technical School has been greatly affected in terms of infrastructure and enrollment. I am sorry to announce that the school is at the verge of collapse because it has still not been absorbed by the government into the mainstream second cycle institutions. The chiefs and people of Hasu communities can no longer afford to finance the administration of the school from their meager contributions after 10 years of providing support.
Fred Kwame Asaris reports for Joy News.
Away from that, the national chairman of the governing New Patriotic Party, NPP, Freddie Blaze, says he has taken delivery of all 275 buses he promised each constituency earlier this year. He was criticized by many who felt the move was to buy votes ahead of the party's national executive elections. At the time, he only paraded about 100 of the vehicles, but speaking to Raymond Akwa, the NPP chairman said all the buses are now being branded and will be sent to the constituencies soon.
We haven't delivered them. They are in the warehouses. We are branding them and so forth.
Do we have all the 275 available?
All the 275.
When are they going to the constituencies?
When we are set to it, we'll announce.
Is there a date for it?
There hasn't been any date for that, but we'll do it. We promised it that we are going to do. Some even thought that we stole money for it.
Yes, it's been said before that there's no way you could have garnered that amount of money within the space.
It's a question of which way. It's a question of saying that I have repeatedly said that I, Freddie Blaze, sitting here, have not put my hand into my pocket to bring 11 million.
Mm-hmm.
But this country, some people want to build a.
Now, family members of a bridegroom who died in an accident on his way to his wedding reception on Sunday say they are distraught and unable to come to terms with the mysterious circumstances surrounding his death. The deceased was driving with his newlywed wife to the Africana guest house at Atomic Junction when he lost control of the steering wheel and drove into a tree around Hacho. Janatil Firdau Yakubu became a widow the same day she became a bride. She lost her husband Disu Kamaru barely an hour after she was to begin a new phase of her life. She has been hospitalized. Now, 2 others in the back seat of the car escaped without injuries. Maxwell Agbagba has been following the story and joins us live. Maxwell, what's the latest you have gathered after speaking to family members?
Well, the latest we have is that police in some hours will be done with the necessary documentation so that the remains of the deceased can be released to the family for it to be buried in adherence to Islamic custom. But what you can see in the background right now is the Hyundai Santa Fe vehicle the deceased was using together with his wife. The wedding itself happened on Saturday at Takrady, and then yesterday was the wedding reception. So they were actually driving from their residence at Taifa to the ground for the reception, when the incident happened at a place called Atomic First Gate. We are told by police officers that the deceased, who was driving the car at that point, lost control of the vehicle and then ran into a tree at the Atomic First Light. Family members we've been speaking to, let me just say that it was very difficult getting the family members to talk to us, because a lot of them were still shattered by the news of the demise of the bridegroom. Now, some of them who spoke to us told us that they were all ready for the joyous occasion to actually start, for the celebration itself to start. Then they received the news sometime between 12:30 to 1 o'clock. That was the period when they received the news that the couple were involved in an accident, at the Atomic First Gate. Now, they actually rushed to the place and they realized that, yes, the sad incident had actually happened. One of the security men that I spoke to at Africana Guest House told me that the buffet was set, everything was ready. They had actually started drinking, waiting for the eating to start. That was when they heard the news, and they all left the food, untouched, because the celebration actually turned into wailing. One of the friends of the deceased I've also been speaking to said he received an invitation from the deceased 3 days ago about the wedding reception. So he really did not say anything, and he was hoping that they were going to surprise him at the wedding reception. So they were actually on their way. These are all students of St. John's Grammar. They were actually on their way, and then they received the news. They did not believe it until they got to the reception ground, when they were welcomed with, wailing from some family members who had gathered for the celebration to actually start. We are told that the remains is currently at the 37 Military Hospital. It was first sent to the police hospital. The wife of the deceased is actually still at the hospital. She's been hospitalized. Two other people, as you rightly mentioned, who were at the back of this vehicle, sustained without injuries. But inside the vehicle, the airbag, you can see the airbag, it is stained with, blood. The windscreen, as you can see, is completely destroyed. So this is a mangled vehicle, and police officers tell us that they will be continuing with the investigations to unravel the circumstances under which, this accident actually happened. So it's a sad news. Family members at Taifa are not willing to, talk to anybody about this incident. So Daniel, if you ask me, this is what's happening here.
Now, Maxwell, you also spoke to Frank Kafui Hodo, the man who was in charge of decor and sound system. What did he say was his last conversation with the deceased?
Well, he says some hours to the wedding, he actually prepared the ground with all the decor and then the sound system that would be used for the wedding reception. He says on Saturday, sometime around 4:30 p.m., he had a last conversation with the deceased, and they were talking about plans for the wedding reception. They talked about how they can get quality sound and all of that. So just within that period, the following morning, he spoke to him also, and then later, some hours later, he heard about his sudden demise. Daniel.
Thank you very much, Maxwell Agbagba, for coming through with that report. You're still watching Joy News today. We'll be back after these important messages. Thanks for staying with us. Now, pupils of Kokomlemle 1 and 2 basic schools have resorted to open defecation right by a newly built toilets facility for the school. Emmanuel Jivenu visited the school and reports the facility, according to sources, was built by an NGO and is yet to be commissioned.
This is a normal day at the Kokomlemle 1 and 2 primary school. Pupils ease themselves freely in open drains in the school. The gutter now serves as a place of convenience to hundreds of school children here.
Where are you going? Where? The gutter. Oh, okay.
What is puzzling is the fact that the school has a newly constructed toilet facility which remains locked. We found out that though the facility was completed 4 months ago, the children have not been allowed to access it. They obviously are not happy about the situation.
Some of our colleagues sit in the gutter because this place has been done. We are sit on the roadside and pay 50 pesos. I'm not happy that they have done this thing.
Some pupils who are shy to defecate in the open walk long distances to a public toilet and pay 50 pesos to use it. Their teachers, on the other hand, have a fairly decent washroom with running water. The children are exposed to serious health risk because of such insanitary practice. According to the 2017 Education Management Information System report by the Ghana Education Service, over 2 million Ghanaian children in basic schools openly defecate within their immediate school surroundings. Emmanuel Jivenu's report for Joy News.
Now, Ojo Donko from ProNet, a coalition of NGOs in water and sanitation, Koniwas, has been speaking to Newsdesk on this matter.
For the past 4 years, I have constructed nearly 200 latrines.
Okay.
I have gone through the processes that he has said because the structure should be there. Like I told you, you have to go through the assembly because at the end of the day, you hand over the facility to them. You have to go through the GES because then those are their schools. You have to work with PTAs so that once the facility is finished and water is connected, you just hand over. We haven't done a latrine which has lasted for more than 1 month. Just after 1 month, we have to do all the user education and hand over the facility to the schools to use. So I think in this particular case, there is an issue that would have to find out. Either the NGOs is not so certain about what goes into building the facility and handing over to make it functional. And I think in this case, we still would have to check with the jurisdiction within which it was built or in the GES and see what exactly is the problem with this particular.
You mentioned earlier that you have gone through the processes with all the projects that you have embarked on. Are there any challenges? Are there any things that you wish may be easier to, facilitate your work?
I think the utility has been the problem. I mean, getting water connected to the facility. You could finish a latrine and it can take 2 months for Ghana Water to come and do their connections. And that has been a biggest challenge when it comes to, these things. I think the utility would have to help, whichever entity is engaged in the construction of these facilities and get the connection done as quickly as possible. They should not just deal with it like in a domestic thing. These are dealing with the health of people. And therefore, we think that once the latrine is finished and we apply for the connection to be done, maybe within weeks it should be done so that we can hand over these latrines.
Now, still on the issue of sanitation, in March this year, Joy News' Jojo Kobna filed a report of tourists complaining about open defecation just outside the walls of the Cape Coast Castle by residents there. Some of the tourists, clearly led down by the act, had vowed never to return. Well, following the Joy News report, it appears the residents have amended their old ways. They say fear of arrest and embarrassment forced them to reconsider their bad behavior. Jojo Kobna returned to the area and has come through with this report.
For years, squatting and defecating behind the Cape Coast Castle was a normal thing to do. Our cameras could not deter coastal dwellers from engaging in this despicable habit. When Joy News lashed hard at coastal dwellers for desecrating a historical monument, the Ministry of Tourism came out with a game plan.
We will also task GMMB to build a fence on the rocks behind the castle, so it will be a no buffer zone, so no one will be able to enter. It will be a security zone, because if you have a guest, and if you look at the video, it's so embarrassing. You have a guest overlooking the cannons, being told about the history and the atrocities that occurred at Cape Coast Castle, and what you see is a young Ghanaian man doing the unthinkable right below the castle on the rocks. It is not acceptable.
Behind the castle has not been fenced, but security men in plain clothes were placed there to parade the beach and arrest unrepentant deviants. That trick has yielded some positive response. The acting castle manager, Kingsley Okpoi, is a happy man.
We appreciate the effort of Joy News for coming up with that piece. It is true that some people looked at it and then appreciated it. Some other people look at it and then they were not too happy with it, because it casts a slur on the image of the institution, the town and the country at large. A bad image. Yeah. So, however, the good news, like we said, that out of this, a lot has happened. And one positive is that it has changed. The people have heeded the call.
It's a delight watching tourists enjoy a stunning, striking view. They take pictures, but this time around, they have no one squatting in their picture. The balcony smells fresher. Fishermen behind the castle are also excited.
These days, residents have stopped defecating here. Anyone who comes here to defecate will be arrested. We will arrest them. Now our fishing nets are clean. There are no feathers in our nets. Tourists take photos of us to show the whole world that we are crude. Government sent a strong message that we will be arrested, so residents have changed. They now use public toilets.
An end to open defecation here for at least 2 months is the new normal. Perhaps residents of Choko, Teshi, Shama, Jamestown and Axim should challenge themselves and stop the shameful practice. Georgia Kobna, Joy News.
Now, government has rejected claims by some Ghanaians that the decision to create 6 new regions is driven by ethnic or tribal motives. Over the weekend, a Ghanaian based in the U.S. confronted President Akufo-Addo over the matter when he met the Ghanaian community there. Kosi Nutekpo questioned the motive for the creation of the proposed Oti region and accused government of condoning a land-grabbing agenda. But Information Minister Designate Kojo Opon-Nkrumah explains the move was simply activated by petitions presented.
We know is motivated by petitions and not tribalism and ethnocentrism as is being speculated in the last 24 hours by some. And note that the President is bound by the Constitution, Article 5.2, to act on those petitions. And so the President set up the constitutionally mandated Commission of Inquiry, which over an 8-month period investigated these petitions and later validated the claims and requests from the petitioning communities in over 60 different engagements, which were all nationally publicized. Whenever there's been the need to do some more regions or merge some areas into regions, this is how it has been done. In 1949, I'm sure you recall, the Kratchi, or the people of Kratchi, voted to join the Volta region. And it wasn't the entire region at the time. It was just the people of Kratchi who participated in that vote. This is what the 1992 Constitution says, and that is what the Commission of Inquiry has recommended. For those who do not share the view of the many who petitioned and who went through the processes, there's opportunity for them to express that displeasure or that disapproval. They have an opportunity to vote no in the referendum for later this year.
Now, the General Overseer of the Action Chapel International Ministry, Archbishop Nicholas Duncan Williams, proclaimed a 72-hour fasting and prayer for the country because, according to him, that is what some leaders have done in similar situations. The man of God told the congregation the fast will start Today, Monday, October 1, 2018.
We are proclaiming our fast for the 10th month, the month of redemption. We are praying this time around, first for Ghana, to overturn every national crisis. We are praying to overturn family crisis, financial crisis, health crisis. We're praying for families. We're praying for this nation, that the embargoes will be lifted. And I want us to look at some of the examples of men that believed in God, leaders that lived, moved their nations, made an impact, brought community transformation, impacted their world. And posterity always will make reference to some of these names. President George Washington, July the 1st, 1774, when the British Parliament had placed an embargo on the port of Boston, proclaimed the fast, a national day of prayer and fasting, for the embargo to be lifted off the port of Boston. And God granted them their petition, and the embargo was lifted. If these men, brilliant as they were, intellectual as they were, well educated and well informed as they were, recognized the need of God and the place of prayer and fasting in governance, who then do you think you are? And what makes you think that those of us who fast and pray, we are sick and we are crazy, and there's nothing wrong with us? We have food to eat like you, and water to drink like you, and drinks to drink like you. But we recognize the place.
Still watching Joy News today. I am Daniel Daze. Odilia and Tiamwa is standing by with the latest in business.